Okay, so today we're going deep on something pretty interesting. We're going to be looking at, well, you know how actors, they get into character, right?
Yeah,
Sometimes really deep.
right.
We're looking at the emotional side of that, the toll it can take,
Hmm.
using Jesse Eisenberg as our case study, specifically what he went through making the end of the tour back in 2015.
Oh, interesting. Okay, I know that film.
Yeah, so for anyone tuning in who maybe hasn't seen it, it's about this,
Yeah, remind me. Remind
it's
me.
like a fictionalized interview, right, between David
Yeah.
Lipsky,
Okay.
who's a journalist, and he's interviewing the author, David Foster Wallace.
Right, right. Played by Jason Segel.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Jason Segel. And, the thing about Wallace is his suicide kind of hangs over the whole thing.
Yeah, it's definitely there in the background as this whole other level to it.
Totally. And what we have here is Eisenberg's own words about how this role messed with him.
Oh, wow. That's going to be good.
Yeah, gets into some really deep stuff about where acting ends and real life begins.
Interesting. I'm interested to hear what he has to say about that. I think there's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah, I think so too. So
Yeah.
to just jump right into it, Eisenberg said this thing that really struck me. He said he couldn't stop crying during some scenes
Really? Wow.
to the point where the director had to step in.
Oh my God.
And it wasn't method acting or anything.
Yeah, yeah. It sounds more like a genuine reaction.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm curious, from your perspective, you've worked with actors.
Mhm.
What do you make of that?
Well, it's fascinating because we have this idea that acting's all about pretending,
Right.
but then you have a situation like Eisenberg's
Mhm.
shows you how messy it can get, how those lines can blur.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think in this specific case, Eisenberg was playing David Lipsky, right?
Mm-hmm.
The journalist.
Mm.
And Lipsky, in the film, he's clearly envious.
Of Wallace, yeah. His
Yeah.
talent, his success.
Yeah. And Eisenberg was saying he started feeling that same envy, like
Yeah.
towards Wallace himself.
Oh, wow. That's really interesting. It sounds like some kind of mirroring thing going on there.
That's what I was thinking. You know how actors sometimes they kind of absorb,
Aspects of the character, yeah. It's not always conscious either.
right? And not to get too heavy, but Wallace's story, it's pretty dark. Depression, the
Yeah.
suicide.
Right, right. It makes you wonder if the content itself, if that fed into what Eisenberg was going through.
Definitely. And
Oh,
they
yeah.
filmed the whole thing really fast, like just a few weeks. So he's in this headspace constantly.
Oh, yeah. No time to really detach, to come up for air.
Exactly. It's like method acting, but times 10,
Yeah.
almost. And I know there are actors who, they do some extreme stuff.
Oh, yeah. You hear stories, sense memory, emotional recall, all that. It can be a lot.
It can be a lot, yeah. And what's really interesting is that Eisenberg, he said he couldn't even explain this to his therapist,
Really?
like what he was experiencing.
That's really telling, I
Yeah.
think,
Yeah,
about the pressure actors are under. To be vulnerable like that, to tap into those really raw emotions,
yeah.
it can really take a toll. It's a lot to ask of someone. It's not always as simple as just pretending.
No, it's not. And then to add to this whole thing, the film itself, it was actually controversial.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
Wallace's family, they weren't happy with it. Some of his friends too.
They felt it wasn't an accurate portrayal or...
I think that was part of it.
Yeah.
But it's more than that, right? It's like this question of, can you ever really tell someone else's story?
Yeah, especially someone who's no longer with us.
Yeah. His editor, Michael Peach, he even said Wallace would have hated the idea of this film.
Really? Wow. It's heavy stuff.
It is. And it gets at this thing about artistic representation, right? The ethics of it all.
Right.
Where's the line between honoring someone and exploiting their life for entertainment?
It's such a complex question, and there are no easy answers. Because at the end of the day, is it even possible to truly capture the essence of someone like David Foster Wallace in a film? I mean, he was so nuanced,
Yes.
so complex.
So complex. It's like Eisenberg's experience and then this controversy around the film.
Yeah.
It takes you behind the curtain a little.
Yeah, it reminds you that filmmaking, it's not all glitz and glamour.
Not at all. There are real people, real emotions involved.
And it makes you think about the stories we consume, right? What impact do they have on the people making them and on the people whose stories are being told?
A lot to think about. Eisenberg's journey on the end of the tour, it's like this cautionary tale almost.
Yeah, about how art and life, how they can mirror each other in ways we don't always expect.
And that sometimes even the most well-intentioned stories can have unintended consequences.
Absolutely.
It's a great example of how we need to approach these things with more sensitivity, more awareness.
Yeah.
A lot to unpack there for sure.
A lot to unpack.
Leaves you with some things to think about.
Yeah,
Definitely.
it does.
Thanks for joining me on this deep dive.
Yeah.
Really insightful as always.
You too. It was a good one.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Until next time.
See ya.